we are going to talk about subscription management, right? So if you wanted to start managing the Azure resources, first you need to have active subscriptions. The same as you have other subscriptions like Amazon Prime or some other subscriptions. If you want to consume any service, you need to have active subscription. So Microsoft has you know a bit, I mean, they are giving ability to customers for practicing or do some POCs in the environment. So they are giving different types of subscriptions. One, I would say, free trial. One subscription type I would say is a free trial subscription, where you as a customer can sign up for this and start exploring the Azure services, right? So you get 30 days free trial. This free trial is valid for 30 days, and this will be expired after 30 days. All right. So when you have the free trial subscription available, so you get $200, which is basically 13,000 rupees INR. Okay, INR you get it, and this is valid for 30 days. So there are two conditions: whether you use this subscription for 30 days or you use it till 13,000 is going to complete. Let's say you started creating a resource. Maybe that resources started consuming more more cost, right? Maybe you completed within 10 days of your free trial subscription purchase, right? So after 10 days, once this subscription is once this 13,000 rupees are get over, you are going to see your subscription is getting into disable status. Which means that either you wait for 30 days or you consume this 13,000 Indian rupees, right? So there are these two conditions. Let's say you have not consumed 13,000, you just consumed only 3,000, and after 30 days, the remaining amount will be anyways, it's not going to useful because the subscription will be in a disable status. So that is a condition that you have for the free trial subscription. So in Azure, every resource that you create, it is chargeable. So when you are in the free trial mode, your whatever the resource that is getting charged, that amount is getting deducted from the given 13,000 rupees. Okay, that is about the free trial. So what after the free trial? What are you? How you can actually start consuming the resources? Maybe you wanted to consume the same subscription. You wanted to continue use the same subscription, right? So then this free trial is going to convert into the pay-as-you-go subscription. Okay, so in the pay-as-you-go, it's going to be say like pay for what use. If you're running a virtual machine for 2 hours, you're going to pay for 2 hours. You're going to get billed for 2 hours. So every month you will have a bill generation time. Let's say today, which is 10th May, if you start converting your subscription from free trial to pay as you go, right? So your bill generation date will be 10th to 9th of every month, right? So 10th May to June 9th, right? So that's how the billing period looks like. And once a bill is generated, you have enough time to pay your bills. If you're not paying the bills, it's going to be the subscription will be going to the disable status. If subscription is a disable status, that is fine. You cannot consume the resources, but you can still reactivate the subscription once you pay the due amount, right? So if it is disabled and later if it's still not paid, and if it is going to the suspended state, and if the subscription is deleted because of the non-payment, you cannot restore the resources. If it is in disable status, you have to ensure that you clear it and you get it activated. Once it is deleted after a certain period of time, you cannot restore your resources. So this is about the pay-as-you-go subscription, right? So you may start with the free trial and go for a pay-as-you-go, or you can directly subscribe for the pay-as-you-go subscription. So now you know that, okay, there is a free trial subscription and you also have a paid subscription, which is pay-as-you-go. So what are the different modes of subscribing? What are the different options you have? How you can actually reach out to pay-as-you-go subscription? How you can actually get this pay-as-you-go subscription? There are different ways that Microsoft providing you visibility and feasibility. So one is the MOSP, which is Microsoft Online Subscription Purchase. You just go to Microsoft documentation and you sign up for the Azure subscription as a pay-as-you-go subscription. That's one option. And we have something called enterprise agreement. And the last one, we call it as a CSP, Cloud Solutions Provider. So mostly it is simple, right? Every end user just you can just go to Azure Portal, or maybe just log into any Google browser and just sign up for Azure subscription. Then you should be able to. That's why it says Microsoft Online Subscription Purchase. So once you have the subscription purchase, if you wanted to view the billing information, you need to go to accounts.azure.com. When I say billing information, what is the invoice, right? When it is generated, and who is the primary point of contact? Maybe you want to change the credit card information for billing purpose. So anything related to subscription management, anything related to your account management, you need to log into accounts.azure.com. Okay, that's a portal. When it goes to the EA, enterprise agreement, right? So enterprise agreement is basically most of the enterprise environments does this. With this EA, right, you are going to have a contract with Microsoft, right? So in the contract, you are going to specify, let's say, I'm going to consume the resources, more resources from Microsoft Azure platform. Maybe next, let's say next consecutive 3 months, I'm going to pay, consume around $1 lakh. Maybe you are going to have an agreement with Microsoft where Microsoft is going to review your consumption, and they may provide you certain benefits. The benefits may include maybe less pricing for certain resources. Maybe they may offer free resources for a couple of days or a month. Maybe they offer you free support plan. Depends on the Microsoft strategies and their sales aspects. They may offer you certain benefits if you're an enterprise agreement customers. Now, how do we get into the enterprise agreement? Is it something like I just go to the browser and sign up for EA? No. So there is a process that you have to follow. Let's say you are a customer here, right? You are a customer. So you want to purchase this EA, you need to go through your lawyer. I mean, there will be legal agreement that you're going to have with the Microsoft. You are going to contact Microsoft sales team, and you're going to process this. This is one of the direct approach. We call it as a direct approach. Okay. The other approach what you have is you need to contact your reseller or a partner. There will be a reseller or a partner of Microsoft. Okay, so they will be able to provide the enterprise agreement. Okay, so here you are not going to play a major role here. Everything will be taken care by your partner. So let's say in the direct customer, in the direct approach, whatever the benefits that Microsoft is offering, you are going to get the benefits directly. All the benefits in terms of less charges, maybe free support offering, whatever Microsoft is providing, you are going to directly, consume them. And you have your own support team, and you have your own people who can actually fix if there is an issue comes. Let's say you are a product-based company, and you wanted to concentrate more on your product development instead of managing the infrastructure, right? If there is an issue comes, you don't wanted to spend more people or IT infrastructure guys to support, or on that, right? You want somebody who can take care of that efforts, right? So for such scenarios, maybe you just go to the indirect customer approach. You have your partner will have their own support team, and they'll have their own support expert who can actually fix if there is an issue comes. And they will have a contact with Microsoft. They get all the benefits that Microsoft is providing. Your partner is going to charge you, or is going to have different SLAs with you and separate, right? So let's say if there is issue come for you, let's say one of the server is not accessible, right? If you directly reach out to Microsoft with the specific support plans, there are different support plans, we'll talk about it, right? So if you reach out to them, there is a SLA defined on initial response. Let's say if it is a premier, maybe you get a response within 1 hour. So your partner might have a similar support experience or support plan or something else as well, but your partner is going to have a SLA with you for 1 day. resolution, or 1 day response time, maybe 4 hours response time. If you want a more quicker response time, so your partner may charge in a different way, and your partner is going to build you a separate website for your billing or consumption details. So it's all entirely different scenario. You are not going to in touch with Microsoft if you're an indirect customer. Everything is gonna provide by you as your partner or reseller. Okay, so this is where a customer, what I've seen, like they don't want it to spend time on the infrastructure and troubleshooting, and these kind of companies, right? They just wanted to concentrate on their business, right? So they go for reseller or partner. Even if you directly reach out to Microsoft, they will not provide you any information because of the contractual agreements, right? So because they say you are not a direct customer, you are an indirect customer. For any billing information or any support issues, any questions, you have to reach out to your reseller or a partner. So that's about the enterprise agreement. So here in enterprise agreement, we are talking only about Azure. And in MOSP also, we're talking about only in Azure. For most of the customers, there could be customers where they have other Microsoft cloud services as well. Let's say customer has a Office 365, they'll have a Intune, they will have a SharePoint Online, they'll have a Exchange Online. There could be various other Microsoft online products they purchased. So what happens is, they will be logging into a separate portal, let's say Office 365 admin portal for billing information, and Exchange console for exchange related information. Maybe different these cloud services they log in to manage their account and billing related information. For such customers, like such big customers, right? If they wanted to have all the information at one place, right? Let's say account or subscription related, right? So not only Azure specific, it's all cloud services that Microsoft is offering. They wanted to have all account information, all subscription information, billing information, account admin information at one place. That is where Microsoft introduced CSP, Cloud Solutions Provider, right? In the cloud solution provider, the same concept works. You have a direct customer, indirect customer. Indirect customers goes through a reseller or partner, but only difference that you see is in the CSP portal, you should be able to see all other subscription related information. Be it a CSP, be it a EA or MOSP, if they wanted to manage the resources. So far, we talked about subscriptions and account related information. If they wanted to start managing the resources, if it is the Azure, right, everyone has to log into portal.azure.com to manage the resources, right? So whatever we spoke about the billing model or the subscription model, but to manage the resources, especially for Azure, they have to log into portal.azure.com. CSP and MOSP and EA, they log into portal.azure.com, and CSP also log into portal.azure.com. But CSP has other resources. Let's say Office 365 administration task, let's say assigning the licenses, removing the licenses, kind of stuff. They have to go to Office 365 administrator portal, right? So likewise, if they wanted to manage the Intune, they have to log into Intune portal, Microsoft Intune. Now it is part of Azure portal itself. Now they wanted to manage SharePoint, they have to log into SharePoint admin portal, right? So this is how, I mean, the subscription, how we get into subscription. See, once you are into this MOSP model or EM model, CST model, the same thing applies here. The model is same, pay as you go. Whether you are in an EM model or CSC model, you pay for what you use, pay as you go, right? So sometimes it is depends. Let's say Microsoft might offer some other benefits, as I mentioned, right? So they might go give you some other benefits like, okay, I wanted to give you a Visual Studio subscription, maybe for dev and test practice, right? You wanted to do some POCs before you put them in a production environment. You'll have a dev and test subscriptions given if you're an enterprise customer, right? Certain benefits you get it when you have EA or CSP subscriptions, model purchased, right? So now, so far we spoke about what is free trial and how much is the budget you get it if it is a free trial, and what is the duration and how you can consume it. Once the free trial is expired, your subscription will go into disable status. If you wanted to continue the same subscription, you convert them into pay as you go. And one important thing is one person can only get one free trial account, which means that when you're subscribing for a free trial, you're going to put your credit card, your mobile number, and your email ID, right? So you cannot use the same details to get a new free trial account, because this is designed, or Microsoft is intended to give this for one account per one user. Okay, so this is how you get it. Most of the times, we practice through free trial, which is on the MASP model. We cannot get EA or CSP model to do some POCs because we don't have such infrastructure exist, right? So now let's try to understand, once you have subscription, how you want to place your resources. Our end goal is what? We wanted to deploy the infrastructure in Azure. To deploy the infrastructure, let's say I want to create a server. How do I create it? So now we learned, okay, there is something called Azure Subscription, which is like a logical boundary of your services. So once you have the subscription, how you deploy, what is the hierarchy, or what is the structure you have in Azure platform, right? Let's talk about that. All right, so now let's say I have my account, let's say Kamal at contesto.com. Okay, this is my account. So I use this account to subscribe for the Azure subscription. Let's say this is my Azure subscription. Okay, this is my Azure subscription. Okay, so in a subscription, what you have is you have something called resource group. Okay, so you have something called resource group. There can be more than one resource group. One second. There can be more than one resource group. Somehow the view has changed. Okay. All right. So there can be more than one resource group exist, and each resource group can contain multiple resources. When I say resources, it can be a virtual machine, it can be your network interface card, it can be your storage account, it can be your VNet, it can be app service, it can be DB service, right? There can be multiple resources we create based on our business requirement, right? So, and we can create multiple resource groups based on our requirement as well. When I say requirement, maybe I create one resource group which represents the development environment. I'll create one more resource group which represents my, production environment, right? There can be one more resource group which can, represent my test environment, right? So this is how the resource deployment looks like, right? You have your active subscription purchase with your account, then you want to create a environment for one customer, right? The environment is basically a dev where you are going to test your application, test your, um, server performance. Once everything looks good, you are going to deploy the same thing in the production environment where your end customers are going to consume it, right? So with the resource group, you can group the resources which are related to, a specific environment or specific component, right? Or a product, right? So with this resource group, you can apply certain policies, this approach, right? You can apply certain policies. If you apply any policies or, permissions, that will automatically inherit to the all the resources within the resource group, right? So I don't want it to give access to a user to all the resource groups. I can only give access to a specific resource group. So you have such capabilities available with this model. Okay, this is resource model, Azure resource model, right? So let's take an example, right? So I have a user, okay? I wanted to give him access to the subscription, right? As a owner. So first, let me talk about the RBAC, role-based access control. What kind of permissions we have? So by default in Azure, we have something called built-in role. Okay, the built-in roles talks about owner, contributor, and reader. So when I say owner, the user will have access to all the resources. I mean, he should be able to delete a resource, create a resource, or modify any resources. When it's resources, it can be VM or any resource that you're creating in Azure, right? So he'll have full privileges. Contributor will have less privileges than owner. You cannot add somebody else as a owner to the subscription. Reader, as you know, that reader will have only view permissions, or to see what's happening, maybe whether the resource is in an active status, whether it is a deleted status, I mean, whether it is in a running status or a stop status. You can just see what is the status of the resource. This is called built-in roles. If you look at the current every IT infrastructure without the cloud, you have a server administrator, you have a network administrators team, network team, server team, you have a storage team, you have a backup team, you have a DR team, you have an application team, a development team. You have different teams, and each team contains level 1, level 2, level 3 based on the skill set, right? So you with the Active Directory environment and with existing, if your infrastructure is in a VMware with the existing capabilities in the VMware environment or Active Directory environment, you have more control on how to assign the permissions and how to manage them. When it comes to the Azure, how do you achieve that, right? That can be achieved through RBAC, role-based access control, which you see in the screen, right? But with the built-in roles, you cannot achieve that because I have a user which is part of a network team, right? It should only get access to the network resources. You should not get access to the server resources. How do I achieve with these three built-in roles, right? So none of them is going to help me because if I give owner access, whether in a subscription level or in a resource group level or to any specific resource, right? They get access to other resources as well. It's not a feasible solution. Then Microsoft introduced service specific roles. Okay, service specific roles. When I say service specific roles, I have a virtual machine. I have something called VM contributor. Okay, I have a backup service. I have something called backup operator. So likewise, each service which is offered by Microsoft, right, has specific roles given. They are service specific role. Let us say I wanted to give access to a user to a virtual machine. Let's say I wanted to give him as a contributor. I can go to subscription and give him that user as a VM contributor. So the user get access, the permissions are getting inherited to the all the resource groups within the subscription and all the resources within the resource groups. But since this VM contributor is only designed for, created for virtual machine, so you get only access to the virtual machine. Though you got access to the DB app VNet, but you cannot perform any operation because the permissions are customized to operate only for virtual machine, right? So that is the service specific role. You are fully confident that you can apply the permissions in anywhere, subscription level or resource group level or resource level. But still, this role still have some drawback. VM contributor will give access to the VM to restart, stop, delete, modify few operations. But what if I have a L1 engineer who just need to perform the restart of the VM or start of the VM when there is a performance issue or maybe there is a use case? So the service specific roles are also not sufficient to me, right? So then Microsoft introduced another approach called custom or back, custom role-based access control. With the custom or back, what you can do is you can customize the existing roles. Let's say the VM contributor has restart, start, stop, modify, delete operations. I'm going to use this as a reference and I'm going to customize this role just to restart a virtual machine or start a VM, right? So when you use that and create a new role with that, right? That role can only perform those operations, and this role can be scoped to subscription level as well. Okay, so when you go to subscription level and you apply any user which needs access to this specific role, right? So the user get access to all the VMs with the specific roles. This is called custom RBAC. And the beauty of this, you see, right? The permissions are inherited from subscription to resource groups and resources. Either you give them access to subscription level or you give them access to a specific resource group. When you give them access to a specific resource group, you get access to all the resources within this resource group. But the user cannot get access to any other resource groups. Even, in fact, you should not see those resources when you log into Azure Portal as well. Let's say I have a user, I gave access to him to a specific resource group in a subscription. And there are multiple other resource groups and other resources. And the scope is only to the resource group, right? So when he log into the portal, he should only see the resource groups and resources part of this specific resource group. All right. So you cannot see the other resource groups and other resources. This is how you isolate the environment, resources access to specific set of users with the help of RBAC. Either you use built-in or service-specific roles or custom RBAC. Most of the organizations would like to give access to their users with the least privileges. They wanted to do more work with the least privileges. They wanted to customize as much as possible. Now the question is how my users how the architecture looks like, right? Where does my users exist? Are they exist in Azure portal or are they exist in my on-premises infrastructure? This is something that you should know. See, most of the organizations are already have their existing on-premise infrastructure, right? Let's say you already have your corporate network. You already have Active Directory in place, right? In your corporate network. Whenever a user join in your organization, you are going to give them access, which means that the user account will be created in the AD. There will be user account and password will be created in AD or Active Directory, and those will be shared with you as an employee, right? So when you log into your laptop, you're going to use this user ID and password to log in. So when you log into this, you are going to access your corporate network, which means that corporate resources that are given access to you. Let's say whether you are logging into email or any other application that you launch every day in day out, right? So when the cloud is coming into the picture, let's say this is the Azure platform, right? So how your users get access to this cloud resources? And I have been keep on saying that I'm hiring you for a Azure engineer. I'm going to give you access to my Azure subscription to manage. How do I give it? Because your account and user ID and password exist in the on-premises AD, but it does not exist in the cloud, right? So basically what happens is most of the organizations sync these user accounts and passwords to Azure AD. We have a service called Azure Active Directory in Azure. So the user accounts and passwords are synchronized to this Azure Active Directory with the help of a tool called AAD Connect. We will talk in detail in coming sessions, but this is for you to know how the structure looks like in the enterprise environment. They will have their infrastructure exist, whether it is in on-prem or in the cloud in a VM, but their user accounts are synchronized to Azure Active Directory. Once the user accounts are synchronized to Azure Active Directory, their user accounts can be granted access to subscription or resource groups or each resource group contain multiple resources, right? So they can get access to it, because subscription is part of a AAD, right? Not only Azure subscription, you take it Office 365, SharePoint Online, any Microsoft services that you're logging in, right? All the services authentication is done by AAD, which means that when you give access to subscription, you're not giving access to subscription. I mean, you're not creating account in subscription. Indirectly, the account is first getting provision in AAD, then you're granting access to subscription, right? So that's how it works. You're going to provide access to subscription. Let's say you have Office 365, or maybe you have some other components, everything, right? Every resource, every service that Microsoft is offering will have their identity stored in AAD, Azure Active Directory. So what I'm trying to say, your user accounts and user accounts are synchronized to Azure Active Directory. From there, you're going to give access to your subscription resources, right? So then when you log into the Azure portal, right? So let's say you are logging into Azure portal, the authentication is done by Azure AD, and if require, Azure AD will take help from your AD to authenticate. Okay, so there is a different approach that we follow here, say single sign-on and authentication methods. But in short, what you need to know is you have your AD where your user accounts and passwords are stored, and they will be synchronized to Azure AD to grant access to Azure resources. All right. So what is the best practice that we follow? Let's say I have 100 users here. Okay, maybe I just take an example, all users in my infra organization infra team, right? They should get by default read access. So what I do, I create a group in a on-prem AD, let's say internal users, right? So these users should get access to read access to subscription, all the resources in the subscription. Then you keep on add your users to this group, and this group will be synchronized to AAD, and you are going to add this group to subscription level like this. If you are going to add in a subscription level, all the users are synchronized to all the resource groups and all the resources. I mean, their permissions are synchronized and they should be able to get read access. Now there are certain users who need more access, like most privileges. For them, you can just create another group here saying administrators, maybe VM admin, right? You add them to the VM admin group. So this group is synchronized to AAD, and they will be granted as access to the subscription level or as a VM AAD group for users, right? So when they are part of it, they may get access to VM contributor. It depends on us how we wanted to provide access. So instead of adding individual users, it is recommended to add group of people so that easy to manage it, right? So this approach, this model which I'm talking, it's not only in terms of permissions. Okay, so I've taken permission as example because it's easy to understand. So there is something called policies, right? So policies you can apply in a subscription level, or can go to resource group or to specific resources as well. So when I say policy, the policy, let's say I don't want it to create resources in a specific region. Let's say I have all my users in India, but if my administrators by mistake creating the resources in a US or some other regions, it's not going to help me. So with the policy, I can create a policy which can actually allow specific regions. I can mention that, okay, for the specific environment, it's a development environment research group. I don't want resources to be deployed in the UK or US. I want the resources to be deployed in Central India only, right? So I can create a policy which says allowed region is only Central India. And the scope of that policy is to the resource group only one specific resource group, which means that all the resources that I'm getting deployed here, that I'm going to deploy will only be deployed in Central India, right? It does not apply to other resource groups because the scope I have given only to this specific resource group, right? So that's why the policy is also getting inherited, right? Even if you apply policy in a subscription level, all the policies are inherited to the all the resource groups, right? So this is how the model is going to help you, right? So the subscription, resource groups, and resources. On top of the subscription, there is something called management group, which I did not mention, just to avoid confusions. In every organization, you are not going to have only one subscription. There can be more than one subscriptions. And the most of the, I mean, the max subscription count, what I see is 600 plus in one of the client or one of the organization, right? So 600 subscriptions, or let's say 100 plus subscriptions. What is the purpose of it? How we are going to organize them, right? How we are going to manage them? So that kind of, governance or management is going to happen through management groups. You can create one set of resource subscriptions for IT department where they manage the infrastructure. There can be set of subscriptions which are used for application deployments, right? So maybe there are few set of subscription for only for development and testing purpose, right? Let me show you one example here. I hope you can see this screen, right? So you have management group. Under the management group, you have sub-management groups as human resource and IT and marketing, right? Under the human resources, you have one dev test and you have something called application. In the IT, you have seen production and there are sub-management groups called geo-based. One is a US or UK maybe, right? In the each region, you have two more subscription. So this is to ensure that your subscription and services are organized properly. We have management groups. There can be one management group. There can be sub-management groups, like more than one management groups in place. Okay, so this is about how you create management groups and how you manage the resources, how you apply the permissions, and how you apply the policies. Even the policies can be applied in a management group level as well, right? So maybe we'll create few management groups in the next session and see how it looks like, right? And we'll try to apply the policies and permissions as well, right? So let me quickly log into Azure Portal and show you how it looks like. So portal.azure.com is the URL that you use to sign in. Once you sign in, you see your subscription here. So this is the subscription and I'm the account administrator who can manage the accounts and billing related information as well. Let's say that I want to add a new subscription, change the credit card information or anything, I can do it. Once I go into the subscription, you can see that there are resource groups and resources. If I go to resource groups, you can see multiple resource groups here. And if I go to resources, I can see multiple resources, and those resources are part of a different resource groups. First, let me go to resource groups. I'll take this first resource group, and you see there are three resources created here: two storage accounts, one virtual networks, right? Which means that the hierarchy is subscription, then resource group, then resources, right? If I go to subscription, right? If I go to subscription, if I go to access control, and if I go to role assignments, you see there are two users who have been granted as, uh, you know, owner in a subscription level. And you see the scope has this resource. Let me go to resource group once and look at how it looks like. I'm going to Abdul RG, go into role assignment again, and you can see the role is owner but inherited from subscription, right? So even if I go to any one of the specific resource, access control, role assignment, you can see it is inherited from the subscription. So let me add a test user in a resource group level. Okay, I'll go to access control, add a role assignment. Let's say reader. This is how you go to add permissions. You see list of roles available: owner, contributor, reader. They are different default permissions. And if you go down, you see service specific permissions, backup contributor, backup operator, backup reader. These are like services that Microsoft is offering, and each service has their own permissions. We'll go in deeper in next session. Yeah. So let me add a test user. Let's say test at test. Okay. So I'm just adding this user. I'm going to the role assignment. Refresh here. So maybe I'll just do a refresh here. Access control, role assignment. You see the test user having read access, and the scope is this resource, which means that this user get access to only this specific resource group. It is not inherited from subscription, right? So let me go to, which means that all the resources within this resource group should have access to it. So if I go here, the user should have access to these one as well. If I go to
Ramnaka, so this user should exist in AD, right? Azure AD?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So this user account has I just invited, right? Because this is the not the um, this is not the account that is created in AD. Okay,
Mhm.
I have invited their personal account. So that's why you can see here. Let me first log into Azure AD. So you will see that account exists here in Azure AD first. So I'm going to Azure AD users. You can see the test account is first invited, right? Invitation, right? I've invited through, I created through an invitation, right? And he's a guest user. Okay. There are different types of user. One, you have your own corporate network, corporate AD users are created there and they have been synchronized to Azure AD. That's one type. And I created one user account within this Azure AD itself, the secondary type. The third one is I have invited users as a guest account. Okay. So this one, though I
So,
create invited in a subscription level that is first created here, then it is given access to the in a subscription level or in a resource group level. It's clear.
so even though the user did not exist in AD, right?
Mm,
It let you, provide that access to the resource, right? And at the same time in Azure AD, it made that entry.
correct, because Azure it is the first point of I would say entry gate in
Mhm.
short. Okay, I'm going to the resource group. Let me take one of the resource and go to role assignment, and you can see the account is created here as well. Reflecting here, and you see the inherited from the resource group, right? The permission is inherited from the resource group, right? Earlier it was
Mhm.
saying this is inherited from the subscription because this is only created at a resource group level. That's why it says inherit from the resource group. I can also create a resource here in this specific resource as well. So that's how the architecture looks, right? Either you create a account and subscription level that will be inherited to all the resource groups, or you just create in resource group level that will be inherited to all the resources. Otherwise, you can just give access to a specific resource itself. So that is the different types of scope you have in the RBAC model, or this Azure Resource Manager model. Okay, so in tomorrow's session we will be talking more about how we can create a custom RBAC, custom role-based access control, and if there is an issue comes in the enterprise environment, what are the different free support forums available, or you want to reach out to Microsoft, what are the different support plans available, right? How do you purchase and what is the difference between each and every support plan? And let's say since your resources are running on Microsoft data center, what if something happened at data center level? How do you get notified about the service health issues, right? And how do you create some alerts? And we'll talk more about subscription management blade. We just saw it, right? If you go to subscription, you see multiple options here. we'll talk about these options. So that's the agenda for tomorrow's session. I'll be sharing a few links where you can actually go through today's session documentation and tomorrow's session documentation. And there are tools that has to be installed, like Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, and there are a few tools that has to be installed. I'll be sharing them. Just make them ready or just go through the documentation once. Okay. Any questions from anybody?